All right, hello Facebook, how's it going? We are live, and today, if you're looking at the title or you can see it, we're talking to Pamela, and she's here with us right now, and we are going to be sharing her mental health transformation. And I recently had the opportunity to hear her speak, and she had helped several people, Heather, and many other people overcome many different challenges or health challenges in their life, and just incredible transformations. But then she was sharing her story on her mental health story, and I was just like, that is so powerful. And I was like, I have to share this, with the people that I have here, because the reason why is because for people that have been following my journey, I went through, a mental health journey as well. And I don't share about it too much, because it's hard. It's just not easy. And I respect you, for being able to talk about it. And it's easier for some others, and harder for some. You know how some people go through something that's hard and like, I don't really want to talk about that, and I respect that too. Some people, that happens to some people. And it's like that for me. It's a little bit harder to talk about. So I respect that you're able to share that. But I do know that also people that are listening and watching, because I am always asking questions to my audience and stuff. I know that people that are watching right now may be experiencing some mental health challenges or stuff. Like, even I was talking to someone today. I mean, I bless and I hope they're watching, or they watch this replay, but they were talking about maybe going to the doctor, or going to the doctor and then prescribe or saying that you need to take this medication, for what was going on with their mental health. And I was just thinking, there's another way, there's another way, that you might not have to go down that route, because that's what I think about now too. Is as I work with people and help people, I notice it's really, really hard to reverse something, right? Like, someone like get a disease, or they get a diagnosis, or they start the medication or whatever, they're on something for a long time. It's so much harder to reverse that than to prevent it, is what I noticed. So anyways, yeah, if you don't mind, Pamela, maybe introduce yourself, where you're from as well, because I know that people that I listen to me might be in the US, and you're in Canada, right? So a little bit about where you're from, and then your story that you want to share with us.
All right, thanks, Kevin. I am Pamela Gilchrist, and I am from Southern Alberta, Canada. And from a very young age, I was probably 10 or 12 when I first wanted to, I wanted to hang myself in the barn, and I didn't know why I was suicidal. I just was. And what kept me sane really was I had horses and I had cats and dogs and bunnies and all the things. And I do believe that I mean, they just took my everything that I was struggling with. And then when I moved away from home and went to university is when I really went off the deep end. And I think it was that stress of going away from home. And I remember it being really late at night and running around the university, because like a table would turn into something and then start chasing me, and the river was calling to me to come drown myself, and I was just going off the deep end. And I remember seeing a phone number, and so I called them, and I don't know how I got to I think they got me in to see a therapist, and then they put me in the hospital. But 18 years old was my first kind of delve into the mental health institution, because I was in the hospital a week and I didn't even tell anybody. I didn't tell my parents. I didn't tell
So
anybody.
you were in a mental health institute,
Like,
right?
yeah, the psych ward in a hospital. Yeah. And I didn't tell anybody because, well, I mean, you're 18 and you're in the psych ward. It's pretty scary. And I
Yeah,
think they,
most women are trying to convince other people that they're not crazy,
yeah.
right? Yeah, so the last thing
And,
you want to do is show everyone that
yeah.
proof that you are.
Yeah. Or that you can't cope with being away from home. Like, who wants to admit that? I went back to university and I spent 2 months there trying to cope, and I was failing all my classes already. And then I ended up back in the hospital because I had my first actual suicide attempt. And that ended up being 6 months in the hospital in a few different places. And one of them actually a mental institution where they drug you up pretty good. And 18 years old is when I started cutting myself. I started cutting through my own skin, and lots of suicide attempts. And 18 years old, in that 6 month stint in the last hospital I was in, was where I started getting the ECT, or shock treatments. So every other day for 2 weeks, they give you general anesthetic, and that's hard on your body to begin with. And then they strap you to bed and they put something in your mouth. And I think nowadays they only do one on one side of your head, but then they did two, and they give you a zap. And I lost control of my bodily functions, and you lose your short-term memory. It's a shock, quite a shock to the system. And
Literally.
yeah. And I remember the psychiatrist then saying that you need some vitamins. And I remember he put me on a B vitamin, but spending 30 plus years in the mental health system, I think that was the only doctor who ever mentioned anything about any sort of supplements or nutrition or
You were
anything.
there for 30 years?
I was steeped, not in the hospital, but I suffered. I was mostly in the hospital for 30 years. Then I was out. Yeah. And the mental health institution that they put me in the middle of those 6 months, they put me on so much medication that my mom said I could only stay awake for 15 minutes at a time. And then I had to go to sleep. So they had some pretty heavy duty drugs back then that they just flaked you out with. And I just kept suffering. I couldn't. Most of the time, the doctors would just say, "Well, you're looking for attention," or they didn't treat you very well, and they never treated me very well throughout the whole thing. It's not a good place to be when. I mean, I've been clotheslined by the police. I've been chicken winged by doctors. I've been, if they feel like they need to give you a shot in the ass, they'll tackle you down to the ground and pull your underwear up between your butt cheeks and shove a needle in your ass. Like, there's just no dignity in the whole system. It's horrible. And it's so hard to recover because they just drug you up and they treat you like shit. So,
And you're not really, I mean, it doesn't sound like they're ever focusing on any kind of root causes or anything like that. So how did you get out of that, and how did you start to feel better?
So I because of all the medications, the last time I was in the psych ward, I was put on 3 new medications, and I gained 50 pounds in a month. And so I was up to 305 pounds, and I'm only 5'3". And I was using all the mobility aids to get around. I had a motorized scooter and a walker, and the thing to help you get out of bed, and the thing on the toilet so you didn't hurt your knees, and everything. And I was like, I am way too young to be riding around my town in a mobility scooter because I can't walk. And I got desperate and went to Mexico and had gastric bypass surgery, which brought a whole host of new problems. I did lose a lot of weight, but my pelvic floor muscles became paralyzed. And they said, well, those are never going to work again. And as I started to lose weight, I started to be off some of these medications. And one of the medications I was on, I had to sleep 12 hours a night. You took it at night, and it would just, you were out for 12 hours. And people told me I looked tired all the time, even all the time. That's all they ever said. You look so tired. No matter how much sleep I did get or didn't get. And so when I started to lose weight, I started to wean myself off of some of these medications. But then I was only sleeping 4 hours a night. And I was getting so sick because I couldn't eat anything. Everything came up. Everything I ate, everything I drank, everything just came up. And my daughter was starting to, Mom, you're going to have to ask for a feeding tube if you're going to survive. And so I hired myself a holistic nutritionist, and she said, you've got to order this box and get on this stuff. And that's what really started this healing, well, put this healing journey into overdrive. Yeah. I could only drink like a shot of it at a time, the power shake, the green juice. So it took me quite a few months to do one ULT, but then I don't know, everything just started working. And now nothing's ever perfect. I still throw up sometimes. I don't know when I'm full. I never feel hungry and I never feel full. So it's just sort of, I don't know, it is what it is. So, I mean, you'll eat some and you don't know when you're full, but all of a sudden you feel sick. And so yeah.
How do you
And
feel like your mental health started to shift? Because that was one of the big things that you had to overcome. And then the medications that you were taking, I know that that can be tough for some people, when they're getting off of them or trying to get off of them. Can you tell a little bit about that and how that went for you?
I was on all the antis, like the antipsychotic, anti-anxiety, antidepressant, and then a bunch of other stuff. And I mean, psychiatrists will tell you once you've been on psych meds for 2 years, I think they say you're just a lifer. You'll never be off them. And I I just asked my psychiatrist, I said, I got to start going off these. And I had no idea once I was fully weaned off of all of them that I had no idea how much they just kind of dulled everything. So you're on antidepressants and maybe you're not so dang depressed, but you don't know how dulled you are until you're off them. Because all of a sudden I went through all the emotions, all the feelings, all the stuff. And it wasn't easy, but it sure wasn't as bad as where I was in the mental illness world. Because I mean, I was very sick. I spent 150 days or more in the hospital a year. So, I mean, at times I spent more time in the hospital than out. And I mean, there was times in the institution where, I mean, I'd been known to hang myself before in the hospital and they had to cut me down. So I would go in there and held against my will because they'd certify me right away and put you in a strong gown, which just is a gown made out of burlap. You can't rip it or tear it in any way or injure yourself.
The
And
straitjacket,
it's not a straight jacket. It's more
different.
like it's just like a paper sack, like the paper bag princess, only it's burlap. And they throw you in a room with a couple other strong sheets, which are the same kind of burlap stuff, and you're just thrown in there with nothing else and it's cold and you shiver and you just start to scratch your skin off or bang your head against the wall. I mean, it's like being in solitary. They just lock you in there. And I mean, you're in there for a couple of days or more, a week. Yeah. So the it's just a it's y- it's something that's really hard to get out of. Really hard to get out of. Yeah.
I mean, it sounds like torture,
Hmm.
and drinking some green juice is a little bit better than torture.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's wild. And I feel for you. And I think part of why I wanted you to share too is like that was like my dad committed suicide. I don't know if you know. And that was really the start of my healing, me making a decision to change. And maybe I was going down that same path, and men and women between, making those choices, you know what I mean? Like more men do it, you know what I mean? But sometimes, I mean, there's some people that say, well, maybe some women attempt it more often or something like that. You know what I mean? I don't know, you know what I mean? Like for sure. But usually men like would do it faster and more concise, and there won't be a mistake on
Yeah.
their attempt, if that makes sense. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? Where women, sometimes will make a mistake because they're, it's just a hard thing to do no matter who you are. But also what I realized and what I learned is kind of in your story too, because I didn't really think about it like that before, is that someone to do that or to think to do that is, and I do look at it as a mental health illness now, and I didn't really think about that before. And I think the reason why is because I never thought of my dad as suffering from any kind of mental health issues because it was a surprise. It wasn't like you saw it coming, you
Yeah.
know? And so, but what I do think is anyone in their right mind would never do that, is the
No.
way I look at it. So he was not in his right mind to make that decision, right? So he was, no matter how severe the mental health illness, he was suffering a mental health illness,
Mhm.
up until that time that he did that, right? So, anyways, but that also led me to want to, help others, in those situations, that sort of stuff. And your story is so powerful to be able to, to come from that and be able to, shift because like you're helping so many people now, and the way you speak right now is so clear and so concise, like where you're going. It's not like you don't know what the heck you're talking about, like you've lost your mind, if you lost your marbles, like you're there, and you're stable, and you can tell. And you could tell that by having a conversation with someone. You know what I mean? You could have a conversation with someone, say, shoot, they're not all there, something's missing, or something happened, like they didn't quite comprehend the conversation fully,
Mhm.
but obviously none of that's there with you, and my mom, have you seen her story a little bit or not so much? My mom's story.
Oh yeah.
So like the biggest shift in her when she started eating better in general was her mind was one of the biggest things. Is she's still working on it, and it's a work in progress. I'm sure it's a work in progress for you. Like you say, it's not perfect, and even me, it's not perfect. Like it's still a work in progress. There's ups and downs and stuff, but much better than it was, and especially much better on average, right? And more stable, right? The stability is there, right? But before, her mind was unable to process simple things, like even just like, I mean, what seemed really simple to me or to most people was really, really hard, and I'm sure you experienced that too. Like just getting on the Wi-Fi, for example, just impossible to get on the Wi-Fi, just to use their iPad, just to watch some videos or something, like nothing even really that serious, right? But now, like within her improving, her mental health and capability, and I saw that with food as well. Like that was like another direct, like in my face, like you can't deny this, you see it happening in front of you, you know like seeing her shift from someone that can't even connect to Wi-Fi at all, or do anything really on the iPad anyways when you get the Wi-Fi connected, to being able to post on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok,
Wow.
Snapchat, whatever, like, talking to a bunch of people, going live, like being able to do all these things. Like your your mind couldn't even do anything before, and now you could do so much, and it's just like, whoa, that's really, really amazing and powerful to see. And I mean, it sounds like you went, through that, through something similar, and myself, and that person, that talked to you, and that one doctor that you were talking about that said you need some more nutrients, it seems so basic, but the problem is like, you're like, I'm eating good. I'm eating so good. Even people making a lot of money doing, I'm eating so good. I'm going to the steakhouse, and I'm eating, lobster, whatever. Like I'm eating so good, but like the question is like, what nutrients are you getting? And not only what nutrients are you putting in your mouth, what nutrients are you actually absorbing? You know what I mean? And like, and that's what is making, the biggest impact for you is not only you're eating better, but you're also absorbing better because you fixed your gut, in a lot of ways. Obviously, you have the challenges that you have with the gut, but it sounds like either it's being fixed or you fixed, sometimes, especially with a big surgery like that, you can only do so much, with the repairs. But it's even more critical what you're eating. And I have a friend that I work with who had a similar surgery, and I'm like, the food, okay, you have a smaller stomach, right? Okay, you have, these things, right? Okay, so now what you put in your body is even more important because you only have so much space and so much room, right? And so because it's so much more confined, it's even more important. That's why, let's say the aminos, right? They don't even go in your digestive system. Perfect. I'm getting amino acids into my blood and I don't even need to use my digestive system. That's pretty powerful. The biomimetic, what it's doing for your gut microbiome to make sure that you're absorbing and fixing, those issues. But then the food goes into your cells really, really quickly. So even if it's in your stomach or whatever, it's absorbing much faster into your cells, so it doesn't need to go all the way through all of your digestive system. So like, let's say like, for example, like meat, let's say you're eating a lot of meat or whatever, or even a small amount, it doesn't really matter. As an example, that takes a lot longer to digest and break down, and it's a lot harder for your body. And especially your body already had some damage, now it's even harder. And a lot of people have leaky gut, so they have holes somewhere in their digestive system, right? And then that gets into the bloodstream, and your body needs to take care of it. And if it's something that is already inflammatory, and then it's getting into your bloodstream, now it's even more inflammatory. So a lot of those things are really powerful. So like, if you only have such a small amount of room and you eat something that's, bigger and so much room, but it's very low in nutrients and it's hard to digest, it's gonna be really hard for you. So you have something very, very easy to digest, and very, very high in the nutrients, right? And so that's where it makes such a big difference. Even if you were to like, I'm eating so good and eating steak and lobster, even if they were good nutrients, it's just so much time to digest. And really, it's not as much vitamins and minerals as any of these, green foods that you're eating, or the dark berries, or any of that stuff. It's just if you look at the quantity, it's just not there. And that's where, and the other thing too, is people don't realize is that your body stores certain vitamins and minerals, that it needs, and so if you're constantly eating and accumulating, now you could go to a point where you don't eat for a little while, out of maybe need or necessity, or something happens or emergency or whatever, but you're full of nutrients. And so your body can maintain. That's why people are like, someone goes to the hospital and they get a blood test and they're like, how do I still have, I haven't been eating this nutrient for so long, but I still have some, because our body can store it for a long time, for certain nutrients, it's just, that's why people's bodies break down over time. And you're like, how has this person survived on McDonald's forever? I don't understand. You know what I mean? Our body has incredible abilities to hold on to some nutrients, for survival purposes. And it's just, they eventually break down. And that's when you have the cancer, then you have the diabetes, or you have the heart disease, or you have something, an autoimmune disease or something tragic, because of the deficiency just went on for too long. But anyways, I hope that helps you, for anyone listening too, because I think, and I love that you're like, I just, someone's like, here, take this box, have these foods, it's going to make you feel better. And you're like, I just tried it and I feel better, and I don't know what's going on inside. That's beautiful. And that's amazing. Right. And that's it's magical. But I think, some people they're like, how does that work? How does that, what's the mechanism, or how does that work differently? Or how does that, make a difference? But then the other thing that's kind of funny too is, we all know fruits and vegetables are healthy. Like, how many studies do you need to prove the fruits and vegetables are healthy?
Yeah. Unless you're on one of those diets who villainize fruit, and yeah.
But there's a reasons, there's lots of reasons, especially there's lots of reasons people have those, those beliefs, especially in a colder area, colder climates. It's harder, not as easy to get it there, and then even the quality is bad. Like you go and get it, this actually isn't good, you know? So
Yeah.
then why are you gonna keep eating it? You were told it's healthy, but it doesn't, but it isn't working, like what happened? What all there might be chemicals on it, right? Or there might be soil quality or how it was grown, the nutrients, or it's picked really early, right? I know even in California, where you might think you have so much more fruits and vegetables or apples, even the apples that you see like grown in Chile, in South America,
Yeah.
and so it's still like that's even further to Canada.
Wow.
How long
Yeah.
was it picked and how long was it traveling? So then you're like eating the fruits and vegetables that are still kind of devoid of a lot of nutrients. And
Mhm.
so that's where people that I'm so healthy are still running into some of those issues, right? You're like, I don't understand. I was doing everything right.
I read that you'd have to eat 14 apples today to equal one apple from, you know, I don't know, 80.
Regenerative farm, like clean, like
Yeah.
nutrient rich
Well,
soil.
no, like 80 years ago, you
Yeah.
eat
Yeah.
an apple to keep the doctor away, and I have to eat 14. Yeah.
Yeah. Exactly. Same with like, I think a carrot, it's something like 200 carrots you have
Wow.
to eat to equal one, the equivalent of one that's grown in like nutrient rich soil. That's crazy.
Yeah.
That makes a difference. It makes a difference. And if you're consistent, like how could it it's just like anything. Look at anything that you do consistent. If you go to the gym every single day, you're consistent, you do your routine, you're gonna make progress. You know what I mean? You eat right consistently, you're gonna make progress. The problem is people are like, I ate healthy once last month. Like, okay, well, what happens if you work out once a month?
Yeah.
You're gonna have very much progress probably. If you're trying to do something. And then we're just so bombarded, like we don't even know what healthy is too. There's a lot of confusion. Like you could ask 100 different people all over the world, what does healthy mean to you? And get 100 different answers. you know, we're the same species, but we have 100 different answers what we think is healthy for us.
Yeah.
Right. So there's some challenge there, but that's why, we do this, we communicate, we help people educate like what's working. That's why like I was so like I know all the science and all this information, all these studies. People are like, I don't care about that. But like, well, look at this person, look at Pamela, look what she did, you know, real person, proof, in the flesh, they're like, okay, you went through really tragic times, really, really tough times, that would break most people, and then how you overcame that and what you did, is really, really amazing. And I always say people like you or even, the challenges that I've gone through, or people that have gone through way worse things, I think they have those that have gone through those things and they've been able to overcome those things. I think they have the most superpowers and the most gifts in this world. I really do, because they can connect and help so many people that have gone through that stuff. I cannot help people that went through what you went through. Like I was never in that situation. So people would look at me like, what are you talking about? You don't even know. You've never been where I've been through. But I can help people where I've been through, like the disease that I overcame and some of the challenges, you know what I mean? Yeah, I can help more people, but I can connect a lot more, with that or the things that I went through. And that's why when someone's like, poor me, woe is me, when they have a lot of things that went through that, then I'm like, you don't realize how how much superpowers you have and how powerful you are. You need to fix that, what's going on. And once you fix that, you could be able to help others with that same thing. And then often it gives you some people a purpose that didn't have a purpose, which often is very healing in itself. You know what I mean? Because most people want to feel like they're doing something, or they're making an impact, they're making a difference. And it's tough for those that live their life and they feel like they're not doing anything or making an impact. So yeah, that's what I wanted to say to wrap it up. Is there anything or any other parting words that you want to say?
Just, my prognosis was I'm either going to die by my own hand or spend the rest of my life institutionalized. And that is not the case. So, and nutrition is the only thing that turned that around. So,
Absolutely.
yeah,
Thank you so much. I appreciate you and all you've done and all the people that you helped. And can't wait to see where you take this, because I know it's just the beginning for you.
it's totally the beginning. Thank you, Kevin, for having me on.
Thank you. And we'll be talking soon.
Okay, bye bye.